It's 1 o'clock, so we'll get started as folks hopefully continue to join. So I want to welcome you all. Thank you for attending this Zoom core competency discussion. The core competency today is going to be on academic HR. I am Darcy Roberts. I am the Division Administrator of Allergy and Infectious Diseases, and I'm one of the members of the core competency kind of task group organizing these discussions. So this is this is the fifth of our core competency series since the reboot back in February. Ooh, I'm hearing myself. February 2020. Can everyone mute? I'm getting some reverberation. Thanks. So this is the fifth within the series since the reboot of the core competency series within the Department of Medicine. And we will continue to bring you core competency Zoom meetings, we're trying to do this every couple months. So there will be future core competencies coming. The core competency are recorded and are put up on the Department of Medicine website. And so if you would like to view some of the previous core comps, you're welcome to look at that website and review that. So today we're going to be looking at academic HR, and we've decided to do a little different approach than some of the meetings previously. We're going to kind of give you an overview of the academic HR world and what that all encompasses. But then we're also going to let you hear from 4 of our academic HR managers within the Department of Medicine working in the different divisions. So hoping to kind of give you some insight on what their jobs look like, what they enjoy about their jobs, and kind of give you some time to ask questions. The chat will be, Monica Fathrop will be monitoring the chat. So if you have any questions or comments, if you can and put those in the chat. So today we're going to be hearing from Kelsey Griffin, and Kelsey is within the Division of Gastroenterology. Danielle Julian Trice, and she is in the Division of Allergy and Infectious Diseases. And Rebecca Zakaria, and she's in the Division of General Internal Medicine. And Suzanne Schulte, and she is within the Division of Oncology. So first up is Kelsey. So Kelsey, here you go.
Darcy. So as stated, I'm Kelsey. I am with the Division of Gastroenterology as their Division Operations Manager. So I help manage their academic HR, so promotions, appointments, reappointments for GI. And then I also do project management, which can be anywhere from facilities projects to process improvement, just to whatever the division head or the administrator thinks needs to be managed. And then I just started doing 10% of my job with the Department of Medicine, which is where I help facilitate a meeting and bridge communication between DOM AHR and then the divisional staff AHR contacts, and then any projects that might come up that they feel I would be appropriate for. And then in my free time, I like knitting and musicals. I love gardening, and then spending time with my dogs. I guess baking and thrifting. I have a lot of hobbies. I was excited to write all those down. And I've been with GI for about 7 years. I started out as a temp employee right out of college, an administrative coordinator. And as my interests grew, the leadership within the division helped me move into my current role. So yeah, next slide. All right, so to start, we'll just do a review of the mission for the DOM, which I'm sure most of you know, which is patient care, research, and education. And of course, to achieve our mission, we need a world-class faculty. So that's where DOM AHR comes in, where we make sure that our faculty is happy and that we're following all of the rules and expectations laid out by the university, the provost, the School of Medicine, and the Department of Medicine. So the School of Medicine has 31 departments, of which the Department of Medicine is the largest with 2,418 faculty members. Pediatrics is in second with 1,069, psychiatry with 781, surgery with 335, and then all the other departments kind of encompassed in one group as 4,620. So it's quite a big school. I tried to find some comparisons and I found Stanford, and I think we're bigger than, comparable to Stanford, so we're big. Okay, next slide. So encompassed in UW Medicine is the School of Medicine, obviously, which has all of the other departments, and UW Medicine as a department has 13 divisions, of which GIM is the largest, all which include a combination of clinical departments, non-clinical departments, which probably would have a more focus on research, and then administrative, which is something like GME, which manages our educational program. While medical students are housed in the School of Medicine, the residents are housed in the UW Department of Medicine, and then fellowship and non-ACGME fellowships are all housed within the division, with a few exceptions that have residents within their divisions, but most of them are held in the DOM. And as a note, one thing to notice is that UW runs a little bit different. You know, in other schools, both dermatology and critical care would generally be their own department. So this isn't necessarily a typical, it's not necessarily typical for every school to have these divisions under a Department of Medicine. And the divisions and departments work very closely in all aspects, including space, training programs, clinical operations, strategic planning, finance, and then obviously AHR. These are all things that kind of, we work close with the department with those divisions, and they're separate but all intertwined in some way. And AHR, I think, kind of touches every single one of those things in many different aspects. While each division has their own AHR representative, the DOM has their own team as well, who helps us understand, you know, School of Medicine expectations, the faculty code, and helps process all of the different division and departments expectations before it gets pushed up to the school. And that's Karen Svensson, who's the Director of Academic HR and Communications, Shoshana Haig, who helps with regular and research faculty for promotions and appointments, Heidi Williams, who does clinical, paid clinical faculty, teaching associates, and then clinical emeritus appointments, Ksenia Sava, who helps with fellowship, acting faculty, visiting faculty, visas, and then faculty leaves. And then Anna Lim, who helps with volunteer clinical and affiliate, and she also helps with a lot of the promotion process. So they have a big job, and we'll go to the next slide because we can see why their job is so big, because within its 13 division, the Department of Medicine helps manage 600 regular faculty, 1,200 clinical paid and volunteer faculty, 293 fellows, 55 research faculty, 214 teaching associates, and then about 44 affiliate faculty. And then of annual promotions and appointments this year, there was 350 new appointments and 80 new promotions. And I think it's only growing. They were talking in a meeting earlier today about how much of an increase there's been in just teaching associates. So I don't think it's getting any smaller anytime soon. So next slide. So what is academic HR? A lot of what governs academic HR is the faculty code, which was established, we think, in the 50s, probably when the school started getting bigger and being established. So the faculty code is a shared governance between the faculty and administration for all of UW. And the governance is made up of faculty senate, secretary faculty, the university faculty councils, and the faculty code not only protects our faculty from salary issues or protecting them from lots of stuff. It helps dictate and determine processes that we follow and follow through for almost all of our academic HR actions. That's really where the DOM AHR group comes in to help, among other ways that they help. So next slide. So how does a faculty member become a faculty member? Well, after undergraduate school and after medical degrees, residency, internships, and potentially fellowship, the faculty then have a few options. You can go back to the last slide, I'll get into that. They can choose to go into private practice, or they can choose to continue their journey into academic medicine, where they will just decide which track they would like to take. So the clinical track is for providers who would like to focus their career on mostly clinical activity with some teaching, primarily in clinical activity, but with grand rounds, presentations, and almost no research. Then there's the regular track, and there's two different pathways within the track. There's clinician scholar, which has clinical care, scholarly, and teaching activities. And then physician scientist, where providers will do a majority of their work in research with some clinical activity and some teaching. And then finally, there's research, which is just research and no clinical activities. So these tracks are pretty important if they do decide to stay in academic medicine. In addition to determining clinical efforts of the providers, it really lays the groundwork for their future in academia and sets benchmarks for faculty to meet for future promotions and appointments. So once a track has been determined, we can then start processing the faculty appointment. And there are 3 separate appointments that need to be initiated if a provider does want to continue being clinically active. That includes the faculty appointment, the medical staff appointment, and the UW physician's appointment. The faculty appointment ensures our new faculty members are aligned with the faculty code and the School of Medicine and Department of Medicine academic requirements. The medical staff appointment, which is processed by the Office of Medical Staff, or OMSA, they really help make sure that all of our providers don't have any history of malpractice and are capable clinicians. This is probably the more tedious of the 3 appointments. I always like to remind myself that although it's tedious, it's definitely worth it. I want to make sure my physician went through this process. I don't know if you guys are familiar with the story of the doctor death of that physician that was practicing irresponsible for years before anybody caught him. And clearly the offices that he was going through were not doing the due diligence that ours does. And then there's the UW physician's appointment, which ensures that our physicians can bill correctly for patients, which is obviously important because when they bill, we get money and then we can pay our providers accordingly and make sure that they are in line there. So in order for a faculty member to be clinically active, you need all 3 of these appointments approved and monitored, and make sure that they're all in place by the time you want your faculty to start, or else you'll be in trouble. Okay, next slide. So this is actually GIM's timeline when you do start a new faculty member, recruit for new faculty members. Ideally, I mean, this is an ideal timeline to keep your faculty on the academic schedule, but really you can start recruitment at any time during the year, but the amount of time that it takes to recruit somebody really doesn't change. You're looking at probably 6 months at least to get a new faculty member in. So the first step would be recruitment. You'll want to bring a candidate out. You'll review their CV, make sure that they are the right fit for you. If appropriate, potential verbal negotiations will take place. And that takes a few months, depending on if they're internal or external. Then you'll get a DOM approved offer letter, and you'll be able to send it to your candidate. If they accept, you'll need to submit to start all 3 of those appointment processes, which medical staff appointments take at least 4 months to process, and depending on the type of faculty appointment, it can take 2 to 5 months, and depending on what they're where they're coming from, if they have a visa. So that really takes the most work, in your faculty appointment packet usually should only take about a couple of months to put together. Once submitted, you wait until everything gets approved, and then after your onboarding and start date, you start the process all over. So like I said, ideally this would be the perfect timeline, but it often is inconsistent and unpredictable. I wish that this was the timeline that we followed in GI. Okay, next slide. And then this circles back to our title, which is Wrangling Faculty. As an AHR manager, it feels often like we are herding cats. As you can see, there are multiple components that create AHR, but our primary focus is faculty. And a lot of times it's just tracking them down and getting all the information we need to make sure we are compliant in every single aspect of AHR. So how did we get here, and why do we stay? So we have a good group of divisional AHR managers who will help provide their perspective on the position. So to start, we have Rebecca with GIM.
Hello, everyone. Thank you for coming today. As Kelsey said, by the way, thank you for a really nice overview. My name is Rebecca Zaharia. People always ask me how to pronounce my last name, so there you go. So my background and how I ended up here. So I started with GIM in 2014 as a freshman in college at UW. And I stayed there for 2 years until around the end of my junior year. And that's when I left to study full-time for the MCAT, which I will explain later. After that, I joined MEDEX, which is actually the University of Washington Physician Assistant Training Program. And there I was a student assistant helping on the didactics team, helping with curriculum materials for the, sorry, I'm hurting my own cat over here. Helping with curriculum materials, entering student grades, and compiling evaluations. So then I stayed there for about a year until I graduated from the University of Washington. I got my bachelor's degree in molecular, cellular, and developmental biology with a minor in bioethics and humanities. The reason I did this major was because I'm actually very interested in biology as kind of a hobby. I was also part of a pathology genetics lab, the Promislo lab at the University of Washington, where I was using Drosophila melanogaster, aka fruit flies, and studying how pesticides would create Parkinson's disease in fruit flies. So kind of using them as a model and seeing what genetic variants affected someone's susceptibility to getting Parkinson's disease. So at the end of my my time at UW, I was actually planning to go to medical school. So I spent some time doing applications, but then I decided ultimately not to pursue that path. And I decided to start looking for jobs in biology, in a lab somewhere. That wasn't really going so well for me. But then one of my old coworkers from GIM reached out to me and said that they're hiring for this position that she thought I would be good for. And she saw from my Facebook post I was looking for a job. So that's how I ended up back at GIM in my current position as an administrative specialist. And it's funny because right when I got that job offer, I also got a job offer for a biology related job, but I decided to take this job and I'm very glad I did. So ready for the next slide. Oh, I do want to say some of my hobbies, since Kelsey told us some of hers. I enjoy doing hot yoga. I've been doing that since I was 16. I play indoor soccer. I love to read. I love to travel, hanging out with my cat and other people's cats, and generally just watching cat videos. And I also, in my free time, volunteer with hospice patients, and so hanging out with them and spending time with them when their family can't be with them. Okay, so as you can see here, the Division of General Internal Medicine is a very large division, and we have a lot of different kinds of faculty. Over half of our faculty is clinical, with a quarter being regular faculty, mostly comprised of clinicians, scholars, and we have a good amount of physician scientists as well. And the other quarter of our faculty would be acting, research, and courtesy affiliate appointments. We also, GIM has faculty at many different sites, UWMC Montlake, Northwest, Harborview, the VA, the Boise VA, and we also have physicians practicing in primary care at the UW neighborhood clinics, which are scattered all across the country. I mean, all across the country, all across the state. So you may have a doctor practicing, I mean, that's under GIM at your clinic. Next slide, please. So this slide is kind of covering the main things that GIM has to offer, which is our division head, Steve Finn, who is actually leaving effective March 1st, and John Amory is taking his place as the interim division head. Interesting fact, Steve and John are both physician scientists in the regular track. GIM has 3 fellowship programs. We have the academic hospitalist program, and this is for graduating internal medicine residents or early career hospitalists. And this just helps to develop clinician educators and academic leaders in our programs. Danielle Del Rosario is administrator for that. And this fellowship began in 2018 with the help of Andrew White mainly. And this is a 1-year fellowship. And then we have the Addiction Medicine Fellowship, which began just last year in 2020, another 1-year fellowship. And this is to support a new cadre of doctors who provide compassionate patient care, patient-centered care to those with substance use disorders. And it's also to reduce morbidity and mortality and eliminate stigma around substance use disorders. We also have the VA Health Services Research and Development Fellowship, which prepares physicians for successful careers in academic medicine as independent researchers. And it operates in conjunction with the Department of Health Services here at UW. And this is a 2-year fellowship. Lastly, we have, and this fellowship began in 1991, so it's one of our oldest fellowships. And Kari Nelson, who is also a professor in GIM, is a co-director of that fellowship. Lastly, we have the Occupational Environmental Medicine OEM training program, and this is a residency program. It's the US's longest standing OEM training program. It began in 1977. And it's closely linked with the Department of Environmental and Occupational Health Sciences. And so you can get a Master's of Public Health degree through this program. Deborah Cherry in GIM is the program director, and Stephanie Santos is the administrator. So we work closely with all of these people, all these fellowship programs and in the training programs. Next slide, thank you. So this is a typical year for me. The numbers kind of change a little bit year to year, but this is a good kind of average. So in 2019, I processed 57 new appointment packets, each one taking about 3 hours. We had 20 promotions, 15 clinical, 5 regular, 9 competitive recruitments, aka open searches, where we advertise in journals and try to find people outside of our system. We also have 3 visa applications, with possibly 2 more coming this year. It's interesting, the kind of things that you learn, like not expecting to learn, but I know a lot of stuff about visas now, which I never thought I would know. And then we had 3 regular faculty reappointments. So every an assistant professor at the end of 3 years needs to have another packet put together for their next 3-year reappointment. And then we have these kind of different meetings in the division. We have 2 merit promotion and reappointment meetings, aka MPR. And this is where senior regular faculty review the junior regular faculty for merit promotion and reappointment. And so we have 2 of these. One of these is for professors to review the associate professors. And then we have one for the professors and associates to review the assistant professors and all the other titles. So as you can imagine, these are very long meetings, especially for GIM because it's so large. And then on top of that, starting in 2017, we started these clinical faculty performance review meetings to try to enhance involvement of the clinical faculty in the peer review process, because MPR is mandated by faculty code, but clinical faculty under the faculty code are not included in that. So Dr. Finn decided that these meetings would be very helpful to include the clinical faculty in what we do. So these have been getting more successful over the years. We have 3 of these because we have one at each site. So at 3 main sites at Harborview, UW Medical Center, and UWMC, HMC, and the VA. Yeah, so for both of these meetings, I just create the slides with each faculty member's information, like evaluation scores, their scholarly output, and different professional titles that they might have. And so people can review these slides during the meetings. We also have a Pecoraro lectureship where Steve will choose someone from an outside institution to come give an evening talk to GIM faculty. And then usually the next day they will host grand rounds. And then we have a professorship reception for when someone in GIM is promoted to professor. We'll just have them speak and then have a little celebration for them. So on top of these faculty affairs, I also manage Steve and soon to be John's calendars and scheduling their meetings. Okay, so essential skills for success in academic HR. These are the main ones I could think of. The ability to manage competing deadlines and projects. So as you can see by my previous slide, there is a lot of stuff going on at all times, and I have to keep in mind different deadlines, so that's a big one. Strong writing and editing skills. I do a lot of this when writing division head letters for packets, because each new appointment and each new promotion, etc., when you're requesting an offer letter, you need to write a letter. There's just a lot of writing going on. Also for writing job descriptions when we're doing open searches. So you have to know how to write in a clear, concise way. Ability to teach and train others. So GIM has 2 student assistants who I am kind of in charge of to guide and tell them what needs to be done. And not only that, but when we're bringing in new faculty, we need to help get them on board and learn how to do what they need to do. So another important skill. Attention to detail. is very important because when you're processing a lot of the same things day in and day out, it's hard to miss little nuances and little details, but those are often the biggest things. So attention to detail is very important. And a problem-solving mindset. Things always come up that you have to have a quick solution for. And yeah, these are all the essential skills for success in academic HR. Next slide, please. Motivations. So a big one for me, especially my office is at Harborview, making a difference in the community and ultimately further out. Even though it seems like a small, sorry, my cat keeps attacking me. Even though it seems kind of like a small deal what we're doing, it all adds up to help the doctors do what they need to do in the community. Satisfaction in our contributions to academic success of faculty. It's always nice when I get thank you emails from faculty and see how I actually did make a difference in helping in a little aspect of their busy schedules. Working in an intellectual environment. Yeah, I would say this isn't like every other office job. You are working with some very smart people and you get to see what they're working on. Like John Amory's research is very interesting to me, and lots of our other faculty are doing very interesting things. And Alicia does send out an email going over everyone's publications every month, which I encourage people to look at. Another thing is learning behind the scenes healthcare processes. Yeah, so this job taught me, like, medical license reimbursements. That's another thing that I do, or just everything that needs to happen for the doctor to see patients, which you don't see when you go into the doctor's office, obviously, for your own checkups. Creative problem solving. Yeah, there truly is a never a dull moment in GIM, like with the rollout of D1, for example. There was a lot of problem solving to be done there, but looks like we made it out in one piece for the most part. And then lastly, fostering a collaborative relationship between the divisions, department, and school. So yeah, I kind of see what we're doing right now as a nice collaboration. And yeah, with Kelsey having her new position in the department, it's just, we're learning how to get things done in a collaborative way and get things done efficiently. Next slide. Challenges and rewards. So I put these kind of thumbs up and thumbs down emojis as a indicator of what these are. Communication, multiple sites, many busy faculty. So it's really hard to wrangle the faculty because there are so many sites and everyone is super busy. Sometimes you're not getting responses to emails in a timely fashion when you need to schedule a meeting fairly quickly. So that's the one just straight up bad thing in this job. But these next two are, I think, a mix of good and bad. So tight timelines and competing deadlines, along with a large workload and multiple projects to juggle. Although this is difficult to manage, it does help you get better at your job the longer you deal with this, and the more experience you get, it makes you a better employee and a better staff member, I feel like. And then also you're contributing to the UW School of Medicine mission and values. One of these goals is to recognize the importance of primary care and provide service to underserved populations, which I view pretty highly. Being a part of GIM and the Department of Medicine is very good because there's a lot of caring, helpful, smart colleagues here, and they are excellent resources. And then the UW itself has a lot of nice benefits as an employee. And then lastly, there's room for growth in the UW system. A lot of you may know Pearlie. She is now the associate director in the Department of Pathology, Laboratory Medicine and Pathology, which is very well deserved. And there's so many people I know who have gone and do great things in the UW system. So I look forward to see what the future has in store for me. I think that's the last slide. Next, we have Danielle Trice in the Allergy and Infectious Diseases Division.
Hi, everyone. My name is Danielle Julian Trice, and I'm a transplant here in Seattle. I'm actually from the East Coast, Connecticut, and I will rep the East Coast until I die. So for my section, I really want to get into what does being an HR manager mean in this capacity, because I think when people see human resources, they have a lot of assumptions of what this kind of work means. And if I'm speaking too fast, please, mention in the comments to slow down, because part of the reason I'm speaking so fast is I'm excited because I finally know what I'm doing. I've been here at the UW for a little over 18 months. And though I've had experience in human resources and people relationships previously, it's a whole different way of thinking, especially in academic HR. So first, I want to get into how is a division like Allergy and Infectious Diseases, which we call AID, different from a division like GIM. If you notice, GIM had over 300 faculty and about 80 staff, and AID is a bit different. We have about 120 faculty, or a little bit over, and 250 staff. And you might be thinking, why is that? And really, it's because our makeup is we're very research heavy. So our faculties are the ones that are sending in grants and for NIH and getting money, and that money equals hiring more staff for their labs to conduct this research. So we have a breakdown here of how our division is. And so as you can see, we have the physician scientists and the clinician scholars. And the way to think about that are the ones that are PS, they're about 75% research in their time and 25% clinical, seeing patients. And the CS is the opposite. So they're about 75% seeing clinical and 25% time. That's kind of a good way to think about it. And then we have only, 17 lonely faculty that go see patients on a regular basis. And so that's kind of how we're set up. And, in the age of COVID, I will say that our faculty are crazy right now. If there's a place to be, if you're looking for excitement and on the front lines of anything, infectious diseases is probably the place you want to be. And seeing how, when the world is going through things or communities are going through things like COVID, we get a front row seat into how things are happening and how our faculty are responding. So yeah, okay, next slide, please. So our division head is Dr. Anna Wald, and she's an MD MPH. And for those of you that aren't familiar with alphabet soup, because I wasn't, MPH stands for a Master's of Public Health. And our division has two specialties. So we are allergy, which is one section, and infectious diseases, allergy being a little bit smaller. We have 3 fellowship programs, one that follow allergy and other infectious diseases, and a third which is called Global and Rural Health. And that's probably one of the coolest fellowships in that we send our fellows to both Alaska and the Pine Ridge Reservation for them to spend time in and both learn and contribute to these communities medically. And what I think is possibly the coolest thing is that a lot of them have stayed in these places, wanting to continue to be in these communities as doctors. And then we have 138 active research awards. And so that pretty much means that we are getting money for research in infectious diseases. Okay, so next slide. So like Rebecca, here's kind of a stats of how my work looks like. And I'm in an interesting position because I work both as the staff human resources manager and also the academic human resources manager. So I'm in both worlds, and I have a bit of a different relationship with staff and with faculty, knowing that I'm doing both of these jobs. And so what do all these numbers mean for an academic human resources manager? It means paperwork. And I don't say paperwork in a scary way. It means that you're the point person. I am in constant communication with different faculties. These are the people that are hoping to grow their careers and they want to know what the next step is. And I'm here to help them with these answers and also help them smoothly get to that endpoint. And so it really means that being available, being able to answer quickly and find answers. And so that's kind of what my day-to-day looks like. It's a lot of emails, it's a lot of phone calls. Thankfully, I'm in a place where people don't pop into my office that often pre-COVID, or else I'd probably be very, very busy. So next slide. So how does one get to be a human resources manager? I don't think anybody wakes up one day is like, I'm going to work in academic human resources, because I feel like that's a career that not a lot of people know is available to them. And most people, I feel like, don't have a very linear path onto their career choice. It's very windy turvy, and there's nothing wrong with that. You end up in the right place at the right time. And that happened to me. So I got my bachelor's degree in anthropology. And for those that are not familiar, that's the study of people and culture. And my focus was on religion and sexuality. And I thought that I was going to either work for the UN or get a Fulbright. And I didn't know what I was going to do, but I ended up taking a job in Vietnam for 2 years, working as a program manager and as a teacher. And I feel like management and programming has always kind of been in my jobs previously, and that was my first chance to really hone it officially. I decided not to go into academia as, you know, a professor of anthropology because I knew too many broke professors in anthropology, and I didn't want to live off grants. So, so my previous experience, it's in program management. It's with staff and conflict resolution, some data analysis, working in the private sector and the financial institutions, very cross-cultural, very international. And so really the common thread is, are you good with people? Because at the end of the day, our doctors are people and they're busy. They have, some of them have been in the UW system forever and some of them are brand new. And so you're that resource for them in order to get the job done. So if you're somebody that enjoys people, that enjoys being communicative, then this might be something for you. And knowing that I'm an introvert, or I'm an extroverted introvert. So I like people and I also need downtime, but so it's not a bad place to be if you are an introvert. Okay, so next slide. And so why do I like doing what I do? Because I really do enjoy this kind of work, working with people all the time. One is that my division is a pretty exciting place. COVID, I'm learning so much. We are involved in vaccine trials. We are involved on the front lines, and I get to hear the news right out the gate about what's next and what's coming. Great people and great collaborations. If you want to be a human resources manager here in this kind of work, you don't have to have all of the knowledge. What you do have to have is the core skills, the emotional intelligence, the ability to be clear and concise, because of the people that we work with, if you don't know the answer, someone will know it for you and they will help you find that. So I think that's a great resource. Not every place is like that, but here at the UW they are. No day is ever the same. It is not going to be just a wake up and put data entry in every day kind of thing. And I've had jobs like that. This is, every day is kind of malleable. You're going to have meetings, you're going to have paperwork, you're going to have questions. And so very flexible in that. And also there's a sense of ownership. I'm in a very lucky place where I get to kind of either build my job or build the processes that we're doing to make them better and more efficient, or just make more sense. And that gives me a lot of pride, being able to know that, one, the people I work with trust me to do that, and also that I have the resources to do it, to be able to say, you know what, I know you've been doing it that way for 5 years, but I think it might be a better way this way. How do we do that? And I'm going to find it for you. And so that gives me a lot of pride, being able to say, this is my work, this is what I own. So if you're somebody that wants that, this might be a really great path for you as well. So next slide. So yeah, as I said before, what does it take to do this kind of work? I have this little little thing where somebody's pretty much word vomiting all of their problems, and I need to figure out what is the actual issue and how to solve it. But like I said, do you like people? And what about problem solving? Are you organized? I've probably gone through 4 different organization systems when I first got into this job to figure out what worked best for me. Because there will always be deadlines coming and always things to be done, and you need to figure out what way works for you in order to get these things done. And being the go-to person, it's a lot of responsibility. I get a lot of emails, and knowing how to answer these questions and answer them promptly, I think is important. But I enjoy that sense of responsibility. So, but yes, so I think that's, if you find yourself gravitating toward these kind of benchmarks, then academic human resources is a place that you might want to think about down the line in your career. So yeah, that is me. And any questions, you guys can reach out and we'll have our information at the end. But I'd like to introduce Suzanne next. I think you're on mute.
Sorry about that. I am Suzanne Schulte, and I manage the faculty HR for the Division of Medical Oncology. We are a large division, and our leader is Dr. Nancy Davidson. We have 315 faculty plus 180 staff, and I'm sure counting. We have a mix of faculty with 104 regular faculty and a mix of clinician scholars and physician scientists, with 34 clinical, 6 acting, 3 research, 22 affiliates across the Pacific Northwest, and 146 teaching associates. So from a slide earlier, I didn't realize that we, I guess I kind of knew that, but we have a big portion of those teaching associates in the Department of Medicine. I will say that our regular faculty, we have not just UW based, but Fred Hutch based, and I'll get into that a little bit more on the next slide. Thank you. So why is oncology unique? And when I was thinking about this, I think that a lot of the divisions are perhaps housed at the University Medical Center or Harborview. And oncology, we are actually based on the Fred Hutch campus, where the majority of our faculty work out of the Seattle Cancer Care Alliance, seeing patients there at South Lake Union. We have a large portion of our clinical faculty based out of our SCCA community sites, which have grown over the past few years, with Northwest Hospital, Evergreen Health in Kirkland, Overlake in Bellevue, which just recently in last July 2020 opened there, Issaquah, and Peninsula in Poulsbo. In addition, we have faculty seeing patients at the VA. So we are indeed spread out across Western Washington. I do want to add that we are, I think the other thing is unique, that we do have a large portion of our regular faculty being Fred Hutch based, along with our teaching associates, where they are paid direct from Fred Hutch and receive their benefits there, but hold their faculty appointment secondary with UW. Next slide, please. So what happened in 2020 besides COVID? Well, I worked on 34 new appointments, and that's regular faculty, clinical, and teaching associates, 12 promotions, 9 regular and 3 clinical, 9 new searches. Those are regular research and clinical faculty, 2 emeritus appointments, 1 visa appointment, and numerous faculty reappointments. Next slide. So about me, I've been with the Division of Oncology for almost 7 years. I enjoy this job. I think, like others mentioned, I certainly didn't seek out to be an academic HR manager. I don't think I really knew what that was. But I think being in this job, I think it's rewarding that every day I learn something new. And the collaborations that make my job successful, I think is hugely rewarding. There's a lot to juggle, like we've all said, with between the new appointments, reappointments, promotions, annual reviews, FMLA, leave without pay. There's so many things to keep track of, but I think that knowing that you're helping faculty and the mission of the School of Medicine, I think is rewarding in itself. On the personal side, I am married with 3 kids and a new chocolate lab puppy who's about 70 pounds now. So I'm not sure if he's a puppy, but he's quite big. I spend a lot of time in the spring traveling for baseball for my 2 boys. I also like gardening too. I know that was mentioned by others. Before joining the university, I owned a home design and staging business, which I still kind of dabble in a little bit if I can find the time, which keeps, I think, that creative side, like I said, of my brain active, which I need, because when you're doing paperwork all day long, I appreciate that creative side. Next slide, please. I have this slide because I think this sums up this job, and it certainly does take a village. I immensely respect the many colleagues that I work with across the SCCA, Fred Hutch, UW campuses, and I certainly wouldn't be successful at this job if it wasn't for the collaborative teamwork that I have formed over the years. And like Rebecca said, with I think Kelsey, I think it's been very helpful to have these monthly meetings where we can talk and discuss with other divisions, kind of our I don't want to say issues, but maybe there's something that someone else has run across where you haven't, and you can discuss and work it out and work through it together. I think that's been really helpful and a real asset to the department. A sense of humor. I think we do have to laugh at this job, and just sometimes, the stress with the deadlines and I'm getting ready for our A&P meeting in a couple of weeks, and I think you just have to be able to step away and have a sense of humor, and it's all going to be okay. And at the end of the day, things work out. Patience. You do have to have patience with this job. There's so many processes that I am learning new things sometimes every day, especially with the school, these processes that you have to respect them, and just there's always something new, and there may be a snag, but you have to respect the process, and sometimes they're just out of your control, and I have to remind myself of that. I want to add that I am so grateful that we have the Department of Medicine academic HR team, Karen and her team, Shoshana, Ksenia, and Heidi and Anna. I think without them, I would not be where I'm at today. I depend on them greatly for their knowledge and guidance with so many things throughout the year. And I have to thank them for everything they do. And I think that's all I had for my slides.
Great, thank you so much, team. That was wonderful to hear all your experiences and all about academic HR. Here's Kelsey, Danielle, Suzanne, and Rebecca's email. If you have further questions of them, or curious to know a little bit about their career paths, you could contact them. And then questions. I don't know, did my screen just go blank? Oh, it did. Sorry. Did we have a chat? Yeah. I don't see it up on my screen. Monica, did we have
Yeah, there weren't any questions so far.
questions? Okay. So anyone have any questions or the group?
Darcy, this is Karen. I have a really random question for Rebecca. Did I hear you say that fruit flies can cause Parkinson's disease?
I maybe jumbled up my words. No, so what we did is we gave this pesticide called rotenone, which until a few years ago was actually still used in agriculture. So we would feed them this rotenone pesticide in their food, and then it develops Parkinson's disease in fruit flies. And so then we would study their genetics and see what was happening in there to make them, what's making this pesticide make the flies more susceptible to Parkinson's.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
And then in relation to what Suzanne said, I just want to echo, thank you for your kind words about the team, but we would not survive without all of you. So thank you all for the work that you do.
Any other questions anyone has? I'm curious of the group. What surprised you about this position when you started it? Was there something that jumped out at you?
I'm going to venture to guess that most people are pretty surprised by the volume.
Right.
Yeah. It's like we all know we work in a big place, but when you really see those numbers put together, you go, whoa. And then when Rebecca puts 3 hours per package, oh, and then I made slide decks. And then, Danielle's over there going like, yeah, and I'm hiring a bunch of staff at the same time. I have to acknowledge that everyone's doing a great job of juggling so many things and keeping it done on time.
Yeah.
Yes, one thing I was surprised by, but maybe I shouldn't have been surprised by, was like the level of, I don't want to say bureaucracy, but there's a lot of just stages to getting things approved and so many specific things that need to be done, like in the paperwork, like all these intake forms and blah, blah, blah. You do get used to it after a while, but it was something I had to get used to.
I don't know about the rest of you, but I'm surprised how much I can actually remember. Anyway.
Yeah. It's true. You have a lot of knowledge in such a niche subject.
Remember, and then how much I keep learning. Like I've been doing kind of the same thing for 7 years, and I'm still learning like
Oh yeah,
a ton of new stuff. So I think that's another benefit to being in academia in general, is you're always learning, which is great.
I do appreciate that we're on like a regular clock though. Like I know the time of year that this is coming up, and then the next like 3 months are going to be this exactly, and it just continuously rolls around every year. So I have the opportunity to get better each year, knowing what the academic calendar is like for us.
It's a great combination of like unpredictability and predictability. So you don't get bored, but you can still feel like you know what to do and get the job done.
So if there anybody have other questions? If not, well, thank you so much for the presenting team. Thank you for all who have joined us today. Feel free to reach out to any of us if you have further questions about academic HR. I know many resources of folks to talk with. So again, thanks so much. Take care.
thank you, Darcy.
Bye-bye.
Thanks, everyone.